Hello. Yeah, let's do this. Trust. Why trust? I think I was going back about like a couple of years back, and how I I never saw the world the way I do right now. It was a lot more. I don't want to say natural, but I was very much involved directly in it. Right, like if you were to consider yourself, I want to say a drop of water in an ocean, right? Like no, you're just there with the wind, with the waves, with the water, with the trees, with the kelp, the fish. You're just like there. You kind of don't make a decision. Whatever happens in front of you is what you do, and it was beautiful. I mean, again, like no, for some fucking reason, it made sense. But at one point, I remember I looked clearly at myself, and I was like, "Is this really working?" Was a very interesting response that I had to like a situation or a couple of situations because they happened over and over again and I kind of disregarded them. And after 1 year, it snapped. The snap that happened after 1 year was very well. I think the snap happened in the year 2019, and at that point, I decided that I wanted to just like work hard on improving myself and reading and just like doing stuff and feeling productive, feeling like I'm adding to the day instead of like every day is adding to the day before it. It's not like repeating itself. And as I did that, I still basically managed to get sucked in and out of like the whole ocean kind of wavy thing that I'm trying to explain. So every once in a while, I try to actually be a fish with my own direction, but I kind of like go back with the waves and just get my energy sucked by everything that's happening around. And until one day where I actually looked at myself and I was like, is this what rock bottom feels like? And it was an actual place that I went to. Like, it was a location. And I was like excited throughout the day. And then at night, I started thinking. And it was beautiful storm and it was like rain everywhere, everywhere. It was like we were stuck on the beach and we couldn't go. I mean, like we're already wet, but we could not just go to the house under the rain. And as I was looking there, I was like finding everything super fucking beautiful. And then it clicked. I was like, is this what rock bottom feels like? And then whatever that kind of like started building my train of thought towards a whole lot of anxiety. And it's funny because like all your whatever I thought was like whatever I thought existed in my life in front of like as I was just sitting there and pondering, reflecting, like thinking of things, going back in my head to the actual days that have been passing, the things that have been happening, and they start looking completely different in my head. And at that point, I think I completely lost trust in myself because I was looking at myself in a way where, like, if I was somebody who's trusted, I would get the job done. But the way I reflected on myself at that point was very much like in very not disappointment, but more like shit, man. I can't trust you. And that's what the feeling like, right? Like, and I trusted I could handle the flow. I trusted I could handle the pressure, attention, engagement, that kind of like back and forth drama that you have to take with life. It's part of my like core philosophy that there's an objective and subjective like outlook on things, and you kind of have to find the balance in between because you have to objectively look at something without completely becoming emotionless about it, and then as well you have to subjectively be involved in it without completely losing control and having it suck you in. And so the reason I thought of trust, I think, is because I was going back and remembering stuff, and then I was like, shit, hey, I don't actually. That's the time where I didn't trust myself, and I think that's actually a good idea. That was like one of the best things that ever happened to me because then I actually got to look truly on the way I am, the person that I was, and I got to truly compare me or compare that person to whoever I actually was should be in order for whatever I want to do to work. And I think that's where like rock bottom hits. And I remember like the first thing I did was I consciously like thanked the storm and I thanked the universe. And it was like a bit weird from the terms of like, well, so if you're real and you're going to send me a message, this is like the most perfect message that I could be sent. That's how I thought of it. But then that profound like realization as it slips through you and then you get sucked back to reality. You go through the whole what the fuck have I been doing and all these things. And inch by inch, you have to understand how you lost your trust in yourself. You have to rebuild it from scratch. This time, actually, with a system that works, with a testable system, not just blind, don't worry about it, I got you, bro. The initiation of this conversation in my head was legitimately just the need that we have to detach from ourselves or to look at ourselves in a bit more of a not an objective sense. We need to look at ourselves as the third person. Like objectively, we can't look at ourselves. We can look at our behavior because we're still doing the looking. But to look at myself as the third person, as I remember that time over there, I was sitting there, and it happens all the time because when you're actually thinking of something, you're kind of like zoning out and imagining how you've been doing things and how it's been coming out. If that's your process, or at least that's mine. So looking at myself from the third person, it's literally me not interacting, but watching how I interact with the world. So it becomes the actor is reality, and the actor, another actor is me. So these are basically, and the third person is the one me that made the decision that something is off. And so I'm observing to see what's going on. And basically, I start observing all the interactions that have been happening, and in a way, kind of like go. And it's more like a game of chess mixed with a single player game, right? That's the objective approach to yourself and the subjective approach to yourself, to reality, sorry. Because objectively, when you approach reality, objectively, what you're doing is watching yourself play in it. So you're objectively approaching reality and watching yourself do stuff in it. But when you're approaching reality subjectively, then you're completely immersed in it. It literally becomes a moment. Like every single thing that you do within that reality is a moment. And I think ideally, like we objectively look at reality. I think 20 to 25% of the time. The reason I picked that number is because I'd imagine we sleep for 8 hours, let's say, and then we have 16 hours. And I think within these 16 hours, 4 hours would be great for us to actually like just use for reflection's sake, or at the very least, these 4 hours are not necessarily for reflections, but for the system we're building that would lead to cat to the person that succeeds or that reaches their goal. Reaches their goal is exactly what I need to be saying. The word success cannot be explained, but reaches their goal actually. So what do you want to do, and what's the system you're preparing for and you're working on in order to get to it? And you have to like be able to like question yourself and not blindly trust yourself, because well, the first person who's delusional is the self that thinks that he can accomplish something that he hasn't accomplished before just because he believes in himself. And so once the trust is killed, belief is gone. And then as the trust is rebuilt, the belief starts becoming more of a truth. So whatever used to be belief becomes a truth when the trust is broken. Because once the trust is not broken, once the trust is lost, once the trust is lost, the first thing we start doing is bringing it back. And as we bring it back, we develop our belief system a more tangible belief system, which stops being a belief system and just becomes a truthful reality or reality on a truthful reality reflected system. Because you don't have to believe anymore. As you build your trust, what effectively the only thing that would allow you to trust again, or to build the trust that was lost, is by actually starting to succeed. So all your belief systems become replaced by strong truths and memories and moments of your competence and of your actual movement towards the future. And it gives you a much easier way to like interact with the reality that's in front of you, and gives you the experience of looking at it from both sides, from an objective way or not. So I really think we should like, if we were to look at ourselves and be like, we don't trust ourselves, how would it look like? What do we have to do? And I think we'd be surprised if, when we understand truly what it means to trust yourself or to trust something or someone, and then you actually like weigh the trust based on the outcome of this trust, I think we'd be surprised how many of us shouldn't be trusted with shit. Peace out, my brews. I love this. All right. Thank you guys. Later.